In today's video, we're going to unpack a medical drama TV series called The Pitt. And there's a particular clip from that, an interaction with a trans woman who is a patient and a particular doctor who is treating her. And so I just wanted to kind of go scene by scene and unpack some of the dynamics and interactions and point out some of the best practices as well as some of the things that trans and non-binary folks typically face. While this is focused on the medical sector, I would also encourage folks to listen who are not in the medical sector because these things can be widely applicable in other places, whether, in various other industries or the workplace or beyond. So there's a lot of really great nuance in this, even though it's a very short clip, but let's unpack it together.
Cordera, Mr. Tomas Cordera, please come to the window.
Cordera, actually Tasha Cordera and Miss.
Okay. You want to come on back? Go through those doors. You cut your arm?
Yes.
Okay, no problem.
First of all, the receptionist is reading what's on the patient's record, right? So this is the legal first name, which can differ from a trans person's current name, typically related to how difficult or long or costly it is to change government-issued ID. And so as a result, unfortunately, the receptionist, through no fault of the receptionist, does get the patient's name incorrect, right? So this patient goes by Tasha, not Thomas, the name that was called out. What actually also happens is that the receptionist does make assumptions about what title. So Mr., Ms., Mrs., MX is a gender neutral title. But basically, based on Thomas, the receptionist makes an assumption about what title that person uses and uses Mr. Thomas based on the record. So there's a few additional things that are happening beyond just what's in the record. We see that the Tasha is quite upset by this, is negatively impacted, and almost hesitates to go up. So why is this a difficult experience? Many trans and non-binary folks have a difficult, complicated, even painful relationship to their past name, the one that they were usually given at birth, and because it's usually based on a gendered assumption. And a lot of our names in North America or around the world, are gender specific. So for example, Thomas, we typically associate with being a man. Tasha, we associate with being with a woman. So these are some of the things at play when it can feel very kind of almost humiliating or scary or even frustrating to hear, especially in a public setting, somebody's past name called out in that way. So it's deeply uncomfortable, especially since Tasha is presenting in a more feminine way. And so if she's going up in response to a name we typically associate with being a man, you can see the tension there in that it could kind of out her to others who are waiting in the waiting area. So there's a difficulty there for trans folks. And as I mentioned, it is timely and costly to update government-issued ID. So it's frustrating that because of that, then this just has downstream cascading impacts for her. The good thing, though, is that Tasha does advocate for herself. She does let the receptionist know that's not the name she goes by. And the receptionist is a little bit dismissive. I appreciate it's a high pressure, high intensity environment in the reception area. So I'm not totally dismissive of that experience, but the receptionist's simple response is okay. And we're not clear whether the receptionist makes a note or records this in any way to correct it, but that's just some of the things. So it could have maybe a better response in that scenario would have been, thank you for letting us know. Apologies that we haven't been able to note that. So it's not the receptionist's fault, obviously, that the record didn't reflect that nuanced, layered piece of information. The receptionist is just trying to do their job. But even so, you can bring a bit of sensitivity. It doesn't have to take a long time, and it makes a huge difference.
So, Tasha, it was a decanter?
A beautiful Baccarat carafe. I was showing a colleague how to polish it, and the neck broke with my arm.
Did it shatter?
No, it cracked cleanly in two. But as a reflex, I jerked my arm back. That's That's what did it.
Reflexes. I have regretted a few of my own. Good. Now inject to the other side.
Looks good.
Nice job, Doc.
Thank you for the trust.
Sutures out in a week, but come back sooner for any redness, fever, or drainage. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
We're in the treatment room with two healthcare professionals, one of which is a doctor, Dr. Javadi. And what I really like about this scene is that the healthcare professionals are asking relevant questions to the injury, what happened, or how did this happen, and kind of breaking down, asking follow-up questions to clarify. All of this is really great, really important to the delivery of healthcare. The one thing I'll say is that not every healthcare professional is like this. Some healthcare professionals can get really focused on somebody being trans and trying to bring that into what is obviously not related to their gender or their sex in any way. So they'll somebody will have a hurt arm, and suddenly the doctor wants to talk about hormones and surgeries and everything else, which may not directly tie, or they don't explain how it might tie to the injury at hand. And this happens quite a bit within trans and non-binary people's health experience. Thankfully, that's not the case here. So, Dr. Javadi and the other healthcare professional are quite great at asking relevant questions. They treat Tasha with dignity, and they speak and provide clear instructions, kind of like as if they were talking to anyone else. And I think that kind of very relaxed way of interacting is really key. Oftentimes, trans and non-binary folks, given the past experiences in healthcare, can be a bit nervous or hesitant or even defensive in some cases. And so by having a relaxed approach, that really helps trans patients be able to ease into the interaction and the treatment. They also, one of them related to what Tasha was saying. And so there's this almost moment of, hey, me too. Oh my gosh, this happens, right? And you can see that Tasha responds quite strongly, and she smiles, right? And almost as if her shoulders come down a bit, right? She's able to relax into this interaction, knowing that the others understand her. And that's a big deal.
Thank you.
I couldn't help but notice there's a misgendering error on your chart. I'm really sorry about that. I've gone ahead and fixed it here and on your insurance data file, but it shouldn't happen again.
Wow. Thank you. Truly. Thank you both.
Yeah, of course.
Dr. Javadi acknowledges the record and that it doesn't have the full information for Tasha. And rather than waiting for Tasha to say, hey, I was misgendered and I didn't feel great about it, and please could you correct my record or update it, Dr. Javadi took the initiative. One, she apologized for the error. So that's an acknowledgement that this could have been or was likely a bad experience for Tasha. And she took it seriously enough to raise the issue with her to say, hey, this happened. It shouldn't have. Are bad. And now we're going to do something about it, and took the initiative to update. Of course, we don't know exactly how that happened, and there's a lot of layers to that in our experience working with clients in terms of updating systems. But whatever the method, it really is critical to addressing that issue. And this helps prevent future mistakes from happening, like the receptionist at the beginning calling out a name in a very public area. And that will do wonders for Tasha's continued confidence in the healthcare system. And it seems like a small gesture to make this correction, but it's actually a huge deal. You can see Tasha is deeply touched by the actions that Dr. Javadi took, and also to tell Tasha that had happened. But it's a very meaningful gesture, one that could have huge ripple effects for Tasha's continued care. In fact, she might not hesitate the next time she goes, given that she had a positive experience and that things were addressed. It's not that the mistake happened, it's how it was dealt with, particularly with Dr. Javadi. So, A+ for Dr. Javadi's approach to this. It will actually have a material difference. We know from research in Canada and in the US that trans and non-binary folks avoid healthcare because of these situations that are more negative when issues are not addressed or, various mistakes are made. And so from a survey of 3,000 trans folks with TransPulse Canada, we know that 12% avoid going to the emergency room. When we look in the United States, that jumps almost double that of Canada, and 23% of 27,000 trans respondents in a survey said that they avoid accessing healthcare. And so you can see how these have ripple effects in terms of people feeling confident in the healthcare system. Of course, it's not just the healthcare system, it's broader than that. And these small moments are really important. And so I always encourage folks, if you see something, say something. You might not be able to address it completely in the moment, but it's really important not to let these things slide, hoping that somebody else will take care of it. It's really helpful when people notice something and then take action in any way that they can based on their role. So hopefully that unpacking was super helpful. This is a really great example of how to show up for trans and non-binary folks. Even if the system isn't 100% perfect, there's still a way forward to help people. And it really makes a huge difference for folks who are just trying to navigate everyday lives. So feel free to comment with anything else that you want to add into the conversation. This is a really important model for that. In any case, I hope you have a good rest of the day, and goodbye for now.